Don Kardong, race director and founder of Bloomsday, joins us here on Patch and Lukens and Oso. Hey, Don, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
So we checked your time out. Not bad, 57:41,
14
or 14, 19th in your age group. Pretty good.
Well, it's all relative, you know. I think I should be able to run faster, but there you go. So at least I didn't run slower.
Did you get caught up in any kind of crowd or anything?
Oh
there?
no, I think I'm just slow.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, you're getting closer. I guess as time goes by, it's a natural thing. You get closer to that hour thing that everybody wants to come in under the hour, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I was. I kind of thought it'd be actually in the 57s this year because it seems like the times once you get older start to slow down by about a minute a year or so. And last year it was 56:41 or something like that. So I figured 57s would probably be a reasonable amount.
There was this the guy who won his age group 75 to 79, so I'm going to assume he was 75 years old. He came in about 45 seconds to a minute faster than you.
See, I hate to hear that stuff.
Well, but those there's all. I mean, look at Sylvia Quinn.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
she's awesome.
She's in the. I guess we should tell her age, but she's in the 75 to 79. The old race director. She ran 105. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, she really cranks along there. She's great.
Don, you gotta be one of the older guys to be able to run a time faster than your age. Because if you're 32 years old, you're not going to run faster than your age. That's got to be kind of cool that you're still able to do that.
Well, that part's good. Yeah, I've still got a good cushion there too, so I should be able to do that for a few more years if I don't get hurt or something. So that part's good. Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you a question, Don. You were a guy that finished fourth in the Olympic marathon and has been a world-class runner in his day. If you trained, didn't get hurt, how fast could you run Bloomsday ideally?
Yeah, I don't know because, you know, it's just so hard to measure against that and don't get hurt thing. I mean, in the day I ran between 100 and 120 miles a week, and I think basically that would be impossible now. If I tried to do it, I'd almost certainly get hurt. So
if you were going to set a goal, for yourself, I really want to do this year. What goal would you set for yourself?
I suppose I'd want to get under 55 or something anyway, something like that. 50, because some of the guys that I run with on the weekend, they're down around 53, 54. So it seems like I stay with them during training. So it seems like I ought to be able to do it in races too.
Yeah, but it doesn't sound like much. But if you think of somebody who runs it in 50 minutes and somebody who runs it in 57 minutes, that's only a minute a mile. But a minute a mile is fast.
It is. That's a lot, actually. Yeah, when you just look at the raw times, it doesn't sound so fast. But when you start figuring out how much faster per mile you have to go, then it really starts to get your attention.
Yeah, because Christy Goranson, who works on our 920 morning show, I think she did it in like an hour 7, an hour and 6. And I go, well, you're really close. You should be able to get the hour. And she looked at me and goes, do you realize how much faster? And until she said that, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, that's when it starts looking really rough because the difference between an hour and an hour 7 doesn't sound like much, but it does when you start saying I got to run a minute per mile faster.
Don, you're a guy that's been all over the world running, but so when you're there, you have a time in mind, and that's your goal. Now, the beauty of Bloomsday is there's so many people that go out there and they're part of this event. Okay, that being said, is there a time you're out there, you're running, you're thinking, I'd be running faster than all these stupid people around me, they're slowing me down?
Well, it's probably, I mean, for the first mile, as with everyone else, you're kind of trying to maneuver your way through people that you're trying to pass, and I have that experience too. Probably doesn't really get clear until at least a mile, maybe a mile and a half. So, but it's not necessarily a bad thing because usually when I've got a clear course ahead, I tend to go too fast early on, then I pay for it later. So I'm almost glad to be slowed down early on.
You're not the guy that sprints out there to make sure you took the lead early in Bloomsday, are you?
No, I don't do that. I know people that do that.
He's led enough. He's won enough races. He doesn't have to do that anymore. Hey, Don, people say that going the other direction, Bloomsday, was a harder race. Is that true?
That course that we had the first year?
Yes.
First couple, 3 years?
Going the opposite way around.
I don't think it was harder. I think the hill was harder because Minok, I think, is a tougher hill than Pettit, and Minok was was kind of the original Doomsday Hill going from the bridge up to Northwest Boulevard. That's a really steep hill, and that was rough. But the rest of the course wasn't as bad because we've got starting at about that first downhill comes right after the first mile. Then you got to go do Hangman Hill, then Cemetery Hill. That's a rough segment,
right?
And then you kind of get a little flat section. Then you got to go up Doomsday. So I think our current course is harder because it's just got more hills throughout the course.
What's your favorite place when you were running to run?
The favorite place on the Bloomsday course?
No. When you went to a race somewhere, when you were a world-class athlete, what was the one event that you look forward to, or the one course that you said, I really like this?
I always I ran best on really flat courses because I'm 6'3", and when you're tall, it doesn't help running up or downhill. But on a flat course, usually with your longer legs, you can put it to advantage. So that on perfectly flat courses, I always did better relative to the other runners I was competing against. But I actually liked the courses that were more interesting than the flat courses. Like the Peachtree Road Race in Atlanta is a hilly course. That's a rolling almost from start to finish, and I love that course. I thought that was an interesting course. That might be one of my favorites.
Yeah, and to me that tells me that's why Bloomsday the way it is, because it was an interesting run for you as one of your training runs.
True, yeah. And the other thing is I had noticed in other races that when there was a real nasty hill, it tended to, I guess I'd say it made it more fun. It made it more interesting anyway, and people would talk about the hill and be afraid of it. And so to have a course that actually has that in it, I think makes for a really good, challenging, and interesting course.
So as you're making your way around the course on Sunday, are you concentrating on what you're doing, or are you making mental notes to yourself for the post-mortem meeting you're going to have with all the Bloomsday committee?
Well, I do a little bit of both, but I think mostly, remember the very first year, all I did was sort of be distracted by the fact that things weren't where they were supposed to be. But now things are smooth enough on the course, I don't usually do too much of that, but every once in a while something jumps out at me, and I say, I got to remember to mention this to people later on. Mostly I'm trying to run as fast as I can.
Yeah. Was there anything that jumped out and said, I got to remember that this year?
Not so much on the course. We've had, for some reason, we have a lot more timing errors this year. I don't know if it's something related to that new system we're using or what, but that's definitely jumped out at me this year more than in the past. We always have some, but it seems like we have a lot this year, and so I don't know what that's all about.
Well, that's why you didn't run 53. Bad timing year for
That's
you.
right. I probably was legitimately a couple of minutes faster than that. It just didn't time me correctly.
Don, there's a lot of traditions around the Bloomsday course. The Vulture on Bloomsday Hill, and you got bands, and you got families that sit in the same place every year. When you're running, is there a place on the course that's one that you look forward to passing that mark?
Well, I get a kick of when I get to the Vulture. I think that's a great thing. We don't have anything to do with that. That's Bill Robinson who goes out there and does that every year, and bless him for it, because people, I think, really enjoy having that spot on the course. And I like the music too. I do take that in and sort of try to decide which one of those things I like the best, and I think that's a fun part of the event.
Don Kardong joining us, founder of Bloomsday and race director. Don, was there anything you guys did differently that you really liked, or the people really liked this year?
Well, people like the fact that we timed up Doomsday Hill. I've gotten a bunch of comments about that. Now they're sort of saying, rather than just giving our time, can we get more information on how that compares with other people, and what's the exact distance? And so I think that's going to be kind of a focal point as we move forward, just because I think people did like that. And so if we captured their times, they're kind of interested in having comparisons next time around.
Something they can brag on their friends with.
Yeah, hey, I beat you up the hill.
Yeah.
I may be 50 minutes slower, but I beat you up the hill.
You can walk the whole course, but run the hill, and you can say, I had the best time on the hill, right?
That could be happening, yes.
Don, you were over 53,000 in registration, a little under 48,000 finishing. Is this a comfortable number?
Oh, yeah, that's a great number, because that's a solid number. We can manage that number, and when it doesn't get too big or too much bigger or too much smaller, that's something that works pretty well for us. it's really the trickiest thing is getting the T-shirt order right, and
Right.
Not to order too many, but make sure first and foremost that we have one for everybody when they get to the finish. So that's if our numbers don't change too much, we can usually hit that pretty much on target.
There used to be this whole thing about being the largest timed road race, and it was a big deal. And then Peachtree was involved in it for a while. There was a little competition with them, and then Beta Breakers in San Francisco, which they didn't time. And it seems like all of that's kind of gone by the wayside now. Nobody really cares too much about being the biggest.
Yeah, it's interesting because the list that we see is usually at least a year old by the time we finally get accurate numbers on how many finishers everybody has, and we're interested to see where we match up. But and I think the last list that came out, we were second behind Peachtree, but we try not to get too caught up in the numbers. We just want to make sure that however many people come, that they have a good time and we do the best possible job.
What was the reaction to the T-shirt? I liked it. I didn't do it this year, but I liked it.
Well, somebody always hates it and somebody always loves it.
Right.
But overall, I think people really like this year's, both the color and the design. Because we've had some people who they've come by our office to exchange for a different size or something. They said, "Well, I really like this year's shirt, and so I wanted to make sure I had one that would fit." So I think this was a pretty good year. We do try to be different from one year to the next. Not always have kind of the same color scheme and try to play around with the design from one year to the next. And sometimes we kind of hit it in a way that people really like, and sometimes they don't.
I like the Crush Cup still, my all-time favorite.
That was awesome. Yeah, I think that was a lot of people's favorite. That's my favorite as well too. That was very clever design and favorite T-shirt of a lot of participants.
Don, where's this race headed in the next 10 or 15 years? Do you know?
Well, I think probably the thing we'll do the most with is different little technology enhancements. There's just a ton of stuff coming down the pike. We go to race director meetings every year, and there's always vendors there that have new stuff and new ways to crunch your results and new things you can do on the course. And so I think those are the things that are going to change. I don't think the heart and soul of it really needs to change. That really is pretty much where we started, which is we want to have the best runners in the world, and we want to also have an event where the community can enjoy it and participate and get some kicks out of it. So I think that part will remain the same even as we do more kinds of enhancements.
An amazing race where you get some people finishing in the 30-minute area mark and some people finishing in the 3-hour mark. Sometimes it 10 times almost the time it takes one to another, but everybody seems to have a great time. Don, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Congratulations on another great event, and we'll look forward to the countdown for next year's race.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
That is Don Kardong, race founder and race director now, Bloomsday.